Welcome to the series Employee Health Services, Mind, Body, and Spirit. Employee Health is a section in the City of Albuquerque's Risk Management Division. Its mission is to promote a sense of community and increase wellness among city employees and their families by providing education and counseling about physical and mental health. And now, Mind, Body, and Spirit with Dr. Julia Bain. Hi, this is Dr. Julia Bain. Welcome to Mind, Body, and Spirit. Today, we are going to be talking with Paul Tucker, the owner and founder of Turning Point Recovery Center. Welcome to the program, Paul.
Well, thank you, Julia. I'm so pleased to be here.
I am so pleased that you are here, too. We've known each other for years, and I've been saying you have to come on my show, and now here you are.
Yes, here I am. You called me a few days ago, and I made room.
Nice.
Yeah.
I appreciate you making room for me.
Yeah.
So, we're going to talk about addiction, and I warned Paul that I just might do this because Jefferson Airplane is one of my favorite groups. One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small, and the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Addiction. Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Addiction, very serious brain disease. People are dropping like flies all over the country. More people, I read this the other day, Paul, more people are dying from opiate and heroin overdoses in this country than they are from car accidents.
Yeah.
And I read that the other day, and that was one of the reasons why I thought, you know what, I've got to get Paul on my show.
Yeah, we have an epidemic, and we're hearing about it all over the place. There's been some shows on 60 Minutes. The statistics are all over the place with the increase in overdose deaths. We actually had an increase in overdose deaths in this state. So we've had a lot in the last number of years, but I think 2013 it was at one level, and then it actually went up last year, or in 2014 and maybe 2015. And so we have a really significant problem.
Are we number one in the country?
I'm not sure about the comparison.
For overdose deaths?
We have a lot of overdose deaths here. Yeah, I don't know how it compares with the country.
Okay.
It's in our community. it seems overwhelming.
It sure does.
Yeah.
So tell me the history. I mean, why did you decide to, develop this wonderful recovery center? I love this card that you have. Medically managed, safe, evidence-based treatment, inpatient or outpatient detoxification for alcohol and drugs, intensive outpatient program, major insurance accepted, family program, same-day admission possible. Wow.
Yeah, we really try to do everything we can to help people that want help. So I've been doing this work since landed here in Albuquerque in December of 1995.
Okay.
And started working in this field, and I got interested in it. Working with people, I love working with the potential to go from being in an addiction and all the things that brings, all the negative stuff along with that, and to going from that place to being in recovery and changing lifestyle patterns. And it's like somebody can go from really seriously messed up in their addiction to being in recovery, and then really getting a lot of wisdom from their experience, so they can really turn their addiction into potentially into a really positive thing in their life in recovery. Mm-hmm. And I just love that process. That's
rewarding.
It's so rewarding. It's very exciting. Mm-hmm. It's frustrating at times because there's so much that goes into it, and just because somebody comes into any given treatment center doesn't mean that they're going to get sober, even if the treatment center does everything that they should be or could be doing. It is a relationship. When somebody comes into treatment, that person will be at a stage whether they may be ready, they may not be ready, and the treatment center may do a good job, they may not do a good job, and the person may or may not get sober based on any number of factors. And so for treatment centers, they really they have the opportunity to make a difference, but it is up to the individual to take responsibility.
And like we were talking about earlier, heroin and opioids. Am I saying that right?
Opioids?
Yeah.
There's opiates and opioids.
Okay.
They're related. Yeah, opiates are more of I think, a natural version of an opiate. Opioid means that it's like an opiate, which would be like a synthetic version.
Okay, okay. What I do know about that type of drug is it, like we were talking about earlier, how it grabs you and won't let you go, and it's extremely difficult to recover from because how it changes your brain.
Yeah, it's really devastating when
And that's heroin, and that's Oxycontin, and that's what else?
hydrocodone, yeah, any of the pain medications that you can get from your doc, and heroin is essentially the same thing. It's just a little different formulation. So, the pain, one of the differences is that the prescription medications are consistent. They have their pharmaceutical products so that you know what you're getting. Heroin is scary because it can come in all kinds of strengths, and there can be things in it that you don't know are there. We had a series of overdose deaths a while back that the actor was involved in, Philip Hoffmore Seaman. Yeah. He died from an overdose, and it looks like he got some heroin that had some other opiates in them that were particularly strong. And so he did what he might normally be doing and get away with it, but because of the heroin had been stepped on with some other things, it killed him.
He got some bad stuff.
He got some really strong stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wasn't prepared for it and didn't know what he had, and then now he's dead. So
Such a shame.
yeah, there's a real epidemic going on, and with all those different strengths of what can come across the border, and people don't know what they've got, it's very dangerous.
Let's talk about one of the reasons why we have such a problem here in New Mexico and the border. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay, yeah, so here we are, we're right next to Mexico, so it's not surprising that we have plenty of heroin around. Heroin's all over the country, of course, but being right next to Mexico, that may be a factor. It's got to be somewhat of a factor. It's Mexico's there, and people probably drive through New Mexico all the time, taking it to other parts of the country. But that means that the drug dealers here get plenty of it. So
and they make what's called black tar.
Well, yeah, that's probably the biggest. That's the biggest thing out there, black tar heroin. So New Mexico is vulnerable to it for a number of reasons. There's the access to it, and there's everybody in the country, really. I mean, in New Mexico, I guess if you compare the statistics of New Mexico, you're gonna see that New Mexico's got some limited resources. There's more poverty here.
Yeah.
Whenever you see statistics come out, it's not uncommon for New Mexico to be at the very top of the bottom, and so it's not surprising that with heroin addiction or heroin, that it's impacting New Mexico a lot. Another part about New Mexico is that the resources for getting treatment for help are also not as rich as they might be in other parts of the country. The East Coast, for example, has some wonderful systems of healthcare that do a very good job at treating addiction. And New Mexico, frankly, is just missing a lot of that. So once the heroin's here and people are getting addicted to it and they need treatment, there's just not as much care available here. Yeah. And as a treatment provider, kind of getting back to your question, why did I get into this? How do I relate to that? I'm excited to be part of the treatment in New Mexico because there's so much that we can build, but there also, it's opportunity for building, but it also means that there's a lot of stuff that's not here. Like, for example, if you want to sober living, there are some good sober living things here in New Mexico, but there's not a lot.
Yeah.
And the residential treatment centers, there are some residential treatment centers here, but there's not a lot.
Yeah.
And the whole system of care around, we're not prepared to deal with the heroin epidemic. We're not. So when I put my turning point together, I really wanted to try and build as many pieces of the puzzle that I could, and try to do the best job I can to help as many people as I can. And we have about 30 employees, and we probably treat 700, 750 people a year.
Oh, wow, good.
Yeah, we have inpatient detox, outpatient detox, and intensive outpatient program, both Medicaid and commercial programs. And we also treat some of the underlying issues like trauma that's underlying an awful lot of addiction
Yes.
things. And we really try to put together a system of care that can help people. But we're just one little organization, and when you look at how to treat addiction, there's so much that we need. There's a thing called levels of care, and levels of care would include everything from individual counseling to intensive outpatient program to residential treatment centers to the detox, the medical-based detoxes, and then sober living. And when you look at all those different levels of care, we're missing so many of them that we're having a real hard time treating this. And so what we're kind of running into in New Mexico is that there's basically, when it comes to opiate dependence, there's basically three ways that three medications that can help with opiate addiction.
Okay.
There's methadone, there's Suboxone, and then there's Vivitrol or naltrexone. And the first two, methadone and Suboxone, are replacement medications, meaning that they are opiates themselves. Mm-hmm. So when people get on methadone or Suboxone, they're taking another opiate. So they're saying with the opiate addiction, the individual will be really, really, really struggling to stop using heroin. And if you take or opiates, if you take somebody that's taking pain pills or heroin, kind of same deal, and you detox them, and you do a detox, it takes me about 5 days to 7 days to detox somebody off of opiates, whatever they are. And unless it's methadone, methadone takes longer because it's a very long-acting chemical. But when you do that, if you take somebody off of opiates and then you discharge them from the detox facility, mm-hmm. They are going to be extremely high danger of relapsing. As a matter of fact, they're almost certainly going to relapse if they just simply go home from detox.
Interesting.
Yeah, and if they go to RTC, so that let's say that we do a detox, they go to an RTC, they're gone for 30 days, and then they come home, they're still extremely likely to relapse.
Why?
Well, it's the opiate, the way the opiate works in the brain. It just is incredibly powerful. So when people get addicted to opiates, they if they've been addicted even for a relatively short time, it just creates such an impression that it affects the brain. And all of the addictions that we know, they're rooted in the brain.
Yes.
So that we call it a brain disease. And with opiates, it's just clear as day. You know, when they get addicted, when somebody gets addicted to opiates, that opiate addiction is so powerful that there's a relapse that's just incredibly, the rate is just beyond what we normally see in sort of other addictions. Mm-hmm. Any addiction can be horrible. I'm not saying that people aren't going to die every day from alcoholism and from meth and from other things, but opiates, right. It's just across the board. It's like when people are addicted to it, we just see the same patterns of behavior over and over and over and over again. And so getting back to the three medications that we use to treat opiate dependence, when I say we, I mean kind of the addiction field, is methadone, Suboxone, and then Vivitrol. So methadone and Suboxone are replacement medications, meaning that when people take these medications, they're going from one type of opiate to another type that's being prescribed to treat their addiction, but it's replacing their opiate with another opiate.
And there's been a lot of controversy about that.
There has, and I'd like to say something about that, because I've been doing this, like I mentioned, since 1995, and in my experience, I was really kind of snobby about, Suboxone and methadone aren't my cup of tea. And I still feel that way in the sense that working with people that are taking that is working with somebody that's got a medication on board that can affect their behavior. But I've changed a lot in the sense that I know that there's a place for methadone and Suboxone. I just know that there is a place for that.
Since the relapse rate is so high?
Yeah. Right, exactly. So, if you said, Paul, I want you to take care of I've got a kid, a 18, 19, 20-year-old person. I want you to do everything you can do from your philosophical point of view. Now, my philosophical point of view is more or less an abstinence-based approach. So my philosophy is I want to work with people when they're really able to maintain their sobriety. And our programs are developed to give them the structure that they need so that they can be successful as an abstinent-based lifestyle. And to me, that's the most exciting thing about this work is working with people and having them really get their life back and to get off drugs completely, off of alcohol completely, and maintain sobriety over a period of...
And get their identity back.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely get their identity back, yeah. And that's to me the part that I love about my work. But now, if you've got, like I said, an 18, 19, 20, whatever-year-old person and a kid and said, Paul, you're responsible for helping this person stay alive. It could be that the best thing that they could do is get on methadone or Suboxone so that they stay alive. I mean, if I'm treating them, I haven't had any overdose deaths in my facility or my clients. I've had one overdose death, somebody that went on a relapse 3 years ago or so, and he went on a relapse and he was on Suboxone and he went off the Suboxone, started taking heroin, and disappeared from our radar screen for about 3 weeks and then ended up dead at his apartment. That was a real heartbreaker for all of us, of course.
That's
fortunately,
a shame. I'm
that's
so sorry.
unfortunately for me, that's the only one that we've had that we were working with sort of in that time zone that actually died from an overdose. But
Well, the dealers, they don't care what they're selling. And so, a lot of times, like you were talking about that famous actor who died from an overdose, the people he bought that drug from are not compassionate people. They're not a pharmacist.
No.
They just want your money. They don't care if you die.
Right. It really is heartless.
It is. It's heartless.
Yeah. Yeah. And because the opiate really owns the folks that are addicted to it, it's really, really hard to unwind from that. So if somebody were to go from being addicted to getting on Suboxone or methadone, I'm all for that in the sense that they're going to stay alive. And if they're ready and if we can work with them down the road where they get off the Suboxone and the methadone and get onto the Vivitrol. The Vivitrol is what I use, and the Vivitrol is not an opiate. So our facility uses Vivitrol on a regular basis. So as a matter of fact, you can't even be in our program, in our IOP, if you're an opiate addict, unless you're on Vivitrol.
What is Vivitrol?
Well, Vivitrol is really, it's very, very different. It's an absolutely different medication than Suboxone and methadone. Vivitrol it's an opiate blocker. So when you take the root medication is called naltrexone, and so when you're on naltrexone, naltrexone is an oral dose.
Oh, so you can't get high.
No, you take naltrexone every day, and naltrexone's a pill. Now,
Okay.
the Vivitrol is a better version because you get a shot, and when you get a shot of it, it lasts for 30 days, and it will block you from getting high for 30 days. And so from our point of view, we want our clients to be on Vivitrol because it's not mood altering. If you stop taking it, there's no withdrawal symptoms. There's absolutely no abuse potential. You can't get high on it. So Vivitrol is a fabulous medication. It's absolutely fabulous, and it works in decreasing cravings and the effects of alcohol as well.
Oh.
It's a very interesting medication. It helps for alcohol and opiates. I feel like opiates are a particularly powerful way to use it because if you're an opiate addict and you have naltrexone on board or Vivitrol, then and you try to it will decrease the cravings somewhat for some more than others, but for some it's really a big deal. It really takes it away a lot. But then if they go ahead and they use, let's say they find a pill laying around their house,
Yeah.
and they take it, it's not going to make them sick. It just blocks the effect.
They just won't get high.
They just won't get high. Yeah. And that's got a number of benefits to it. If you are on Vivitrol and you take a bunch of pain pills and you don't get high, you also don't get re-addicted in terms of the physiological part. So there's no detox that has to happen because it never got in there, never re-energized those receptor sites.
What a useful drug.
Yeah, it's a great drug. It's a great
Wow.
drug. Yeah, and most of the insurance companies will pay for it now.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, it's great. So for us, the one part of the world that in treatment, in addiction treatment, is using Suboxone and methadone, which is great in the sense that I want these people to stay alive. So I'm good with that, and I work with Suboxone prescribers and people in the community, and I refer people if I feel like one of my clients is better suited for that. So if they go over there, they get on the stuff. Maybe some point in the future they'll want to get off of that stuff, and some people live very well taking it, and so some people will stay on it forever, and that's okay. But if somebody wants to get off of all that stuff, then maybe they'll come around to our facility, and we'll work with them, and we'll get them off of that and get them onto Vivitrol. But because the brain is so, opiates are so powerful in terms of how they're affecting the brain, it's really, it's like you have to be on either of those three medications as an opiate addict. And now there are some 12-step people out there that argue and say, well, you just need to go to a lot of meetings, which I also agree with. But I feel like my organization and what we do and philosophically is we try to get all of the things we can do to help somebody stay sober or clean. So if it's Vivitrol, we'll do that, or we have psychiatrists at our facility, so if people need a psychiatrist, we make sure we take care of that. We do other work, like I mentioned earlier, we do some work with trauma, so that if there's some trauma going on there that we want to treat, then we can do that. So we want to try to get all the things that we can do to get this person back on track with all the resources that they can possibly get. And that's really what we shoot for, and so Vivitrol is one of those pieces, and we have good success with that, but it has to be the right person. You have to figure out what's going to work for the individual.
Yeah, everybody's different.
Everybody's different.
And one thing, Paul, I want you to talk to the audience about, whether you're watching this program and you're an alcoholic or you're an addict, or you love an alcoholic or you love an addict or care about someone who has this brain disease. I just want to re-emphasize, and I want to address the fact that there has been so much guilt and shame shrouded around addiction and abuse, that I just, let yourself off the hook, okay? Let yourself off the hook. You used a word earlier that I really liked. You get caught. It catches you. It grabs you. It chokes you. It's got you in its grip. It has nothing to do with, personality flaw,
right,
or, your morals or your ethics, or you are not a bad person. You have a disease. Can we talk about that for a minute? And then I also want to, after we do, I want you to segue in terms of families and how you help families and how important it is for family support for the addict or the alcoholic. But let's just talk for a minute about the whole, you're less than.
Well, okay, let's go back to what happens in the brain. So the brain gets hijacked by whatever it is, whether it's opiates or alcohol or meth or
hijacked. That's a good word.
Yeah, it gets hijacked. Yeah, it does. That's the nature of addiction, is that your brain goes from doing sort of the right thing to following the substance, or there's also gambling, and there's also some sex addiction and internet porn and stuff that can also lead to addiction, and so whatever it is. Anyway, my point is, whatever it is, when your brain's been hijacked, it's going to do. You're going to want to do. The impulse is going to be that I'm going to drink, or I'm going to use, or I'm going to do whatever, and to really go down that road of I'm going to drink in an out of control way. Or I'm going to, I'm now possessed by the opiate demon, and I'm now going to go do anything. I'm going to become a liar. I'm going to become a thief. I'm going to steal from my mother. I'm going to steal your money and then help you look for it. That whole kind of immoral behavior and stuff that happens is absolutely not the individual. That's the addiction that's owning them.
It's the craving that's driving that behavior, because they will do whatever it takes.
Do whatever it takes, and if that means that if you need to drink and you're going to steal somebody's money, then that's what you're going to do. And are you normally that person? Probably not. Probably, you
weren't that way before,
Right, yeah, where'd it come from? Well, it came from the addiction. So, so it's just devastating, and it creates all kinds of internal problems for the individual. Talk about feeling ashamed or embarrassed. I mean, it just goes over the top. I
Yeah,
mean,
how do you live with yourself?
Well-
Stealing from your grandma.
right, yeah, and some people don't want to go to treatment or don't want to, if they do go to treatment, they really have a hard time talking about that because it brings up so much pain for them, that I did these things.
Yeah.
I feel, not only did I, kind of the classic thing is that people will feel like a bad person and around their drinking or other behaviors, and then when if they continue with it, they just sort of prove it to themselves that they feel bad about themselves, and then they sort of reprove it, which generates, it's a shame generator.
It gets reinforced.
It gets reinforced over and over again. So the person really, really needs to get out of that, and part of that eventually is they'll get enough maturity where they'll be able to talk about that, and they'll be able to own that, and then family members, of course, when alcoholics and addicts, when they first get into treatment, they want to apologize right away. I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again. And the family members oftentimes, they're not going to hear that. They're going to say, hey, buddy boy, I'm not ready to hear that. I'm
There's
angry.
been a breach of trust.
Huge breach of trust, huge. So that whole process of how the family member has been affected by the addiction and the brain disease and all the behaviors that go with it, how the family member has been part of this process for probably years, and then when the identified person with the problem starts to get help, the family members, it takes a while. So that there's a healing process for the family members that's every bit of the healing process of the recovering alcoholic addict.
It's day by day, moment by moment. I told you this was going to go by quickly. We have like 3 minutes left.
Oh,
I know.
I didn't even talk about how the craziness around the addiction, the heroin epidemic really got hold.
Well, you're just going to have to come back and we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah. I knew it was going to pass like that. Darn it.
Well, what final words of wisdom do you have to say to the audience?
Don't stay in your problem. If you have an addiction problem, reach out, ask for help.
What's your phone number if people want to talk to you about this?
217-1717, area code 505.
And can they ask for Paul Tucker?
They can. We have plenty of staff that are well trained, so they can help you if you call. But when we look at all the things that need to happen around getting help, you can also call your insurance company and ask them what resources are available.
Nice.
If you're talking about a heroin thing, you can also Healing Addiction in Our Community, HAC, is a wonderful organization that's full of resources. You can contact HAC, that's good. Or
211 United Way.
Yep. So if you're a family member that's got a loved one that you're concerned about, feel free to call. We'd be happy to talk to you about that. Give you some ideas about what to do.
Great.
We have some intervention people that work with us if you need to do an intervention.
Okay.
So there's a lot of resources, and it's really just trying to puzzle it together and figure out what is going to be the best option for you or your loved one.
Because this is a matter of life and death.
It's absolutely a matter of life and death. And how many more days, weeks, months of your life or your loved one's life is going to go by with it's just the same addiction process going on? So
A living hell.
Living hell, right? And if you have a loved one that's got a problem but isn't open to getting help, then it kind of ends up in your court for you to start to take care of yourself. And sometimes that's what happens.
Control the only thing you can, which is what you think.
Yeah, right.
So take care of you.
Take care of you. Reach out for some help. Get somebody. The big deal is to break the isolation. For the alcoholic or addict or the family member, break the isolation.
Okay, good.
It's the best thing you can do. Get out of that so you're not alone with it. It's a terrible place to be.
It is a terrible place to be, but you are a wonderful member of our community. Thank you for everything you do and all the people you have helped.
Well,
Thank you for coming on my show, and you need to come back and we'll talk about our state of affairs in New Mexico in particular.
love to.
Okay.
Lots more to talk about.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Thanks for
Paul.
having me.
Sure. And thank you for watching. This is Dr. Julia Bain. Until next time, be happy and be well.
This has been Employee Health Services Mind, Body, and Spirit. For more information, call the City of Albuquerque's Employee Health Services at 768-4613. Let the Employee Health Services staff let you be your best at work, at home, and at play.